Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Here is a full, straight to the point guide on how to complete the Root of Nightmares raid. We will go over every encounter and the best strategies for it, including how to do the Deepsight and the hidden chests. Timestamps are in the description below. Once you spawn into the raid, make your way forward through this open area and stick to the left side wall. You are aiming to reach this set of pillars on the far left where you will see these 3 nodes. You read the nodes from left to right, so in this scenario the sequence is darkness and 2 lights. Turn around and follow the enemies through the hallways until you reach this room. The encounter is to your left, whilst the first Deepsight puzzle is in front of you at the back of the room. Go through the corridor and down the stairs into the basement. Now the sequence was darkness and 2 lights. Since this is the first room, the first node needs to be darkness. If you complete the wrong one, there is no amending it, so you will need to start the raid from fresh to complete it. Simply shoot the correct node to get the buff and then transfer it to the next area. If you see this message, then you have done it correctly. Now on to the first encounter. This is going to be a lengthy explanation of the raid mechanic because once you understand it here, the rest of the raid will be self-explanatory. For this you will have 2 runners and 4 people on ad clear. The runner's job is to shoot this node within the white dome to get a buff called Field of Light. That lasts for 20 seconds. The objective here is to collect the buff and deposit it onto the next plate until the sequence is completed. There are 4 sequences to complete in this area and I will show you where they are. The first one will have 5 plates and will start next to the rally banner. The next will have 6 and will start further up on the right side of arena. A little bit further up will be the start of sequence 3, which will have 7 plates, and finally the 4th sequence will have 8 plates in total. So once you shoot the ball, a white line will appear protruding out of it, pointing in the direction that you need to go. Follow the line and it will lead you to a plate that will have a spiral on it, and in the middle of the spiral will be a black ball. You need to stand on the plate and shoot it. Once you do, your buff will disappear and the black ball will turn into a white one which will activate the plate. There will also be a white line coming from it telling you where the next plate is and so on. But before you go to that next plate, you will need to go back to the dome and recollect the buff by shooting the ball again. And that is all you are doing over and over again. This is the main raid mechanic. Every couple of plates that you complete, the buff will move up onto a plate that you have completed. Once all 5 are done, you will see your screen get flashed with a white light from the plates. That marks the completion of a sequence. Now to speed it up, you'll have 2 runners. The way this works is runner 1 collects the buff and goes to bank it on the plate. As they shoot the ball on the plate, they need to call it out. Something along the lines of plate is done or just done, which will give a go ahead for runner number 2, who is already waiting next to the buff to collect their buff and run to the next plate. This way you can hopscotch across all the plates in a timely manner. However, there are some things you need to watch out for. If runner 1 has the buff and runner 2 collects their buff before runner 1 banks, the domes will disappear and will reappear 10 seconds later. This will delay the sequence completion. If this happens, you need to both wait for your buffs to disappear before either of the runners can reacquire it. It is important for both runners to effectively communicate with one another and call out when they have the buff and when they are banking it. The other thing to watch out for is the buff timer. You have 20 seconds to deposit, and if you do not, simply run back and recollect it. So this is what the runners are doing. Now during each sequence you will have a wipe mechanic called Imminent Expulsion that lasts for 35 seconds, and once it runs out, everyone dies. This is where our team comes in. Their job is to kill everything and keep the runners alive. Among the ads will be 2 scions that will spawn in these bubbles. The scions can spawn anywhere, so everyone needs to keep an eye out on them. Killing them both will spawn a Tormentor. Simply break both its shoulders and chest crit spots to kill it, and once you do, the wipe mechanic will be extended by 35 seconds. Then simply kill the ads again and another 2 scions will spawn. Get rid of them, spawn in the second Tormentor so you can kill it to extend the timer again. The timer also stacks, so you will always have 35 seconds added onto whatever time you have left. Once the runners have completed their sequence, the timer will disappear and you will have a brief respite before the next sequence starts. Then it's just rinse and repeat. If the runners are quick in completing their sequence and you just so happen to have 1 Tormentor still alive, don't kill it yet. Save it for the next sequence so that you can extend the time from the start. Once the encounter is done, make your way through to the next area by following this pathway. Whilst you are running to the next encounter, you will come across a catapult that helps to launch you across the gaps. Make sure you press your character to the back of a jump pad and then shoot the crystal, which will fling you across the gap. If you jump just before it activates or double jump whilst flying across, you will go further and higher up. The first hidden chest will be in this area where there will be 3 doors and a sniper science to your right side. Make your way to the top and jump across the chasm into the doors on the side. It doesn't matter which one you jump into because they all lead to the right side. Inside, you will need to kill a tormentor, which will reveal a chest at the back of the room. This is the first hidden chest. Up next is the second encounter. For this, there are 3 strategies. The objective here is exactly like before. Collect the field of light buff and bank on the correct plates. This time you will have a secondary buff called Flux of Darkness that you can collect from the orange domes on the left side of a room. It works exactly the same way as Field of Light, except both buffs need to be deposited onto the correctly colored plates. So orange goes to orange and white goes to white. Each time you bank a plate, the next one will be on the opposite side. So when you pick up light on the right side, you will need to jump across and bank it on the left side. The next white node will be on the right side, then left, and finally right. Same with the orange one. You pick it up on the left, jump to the right, bank it, and the next one will be on the left. To get across, you'll need to use the jump pads in the middle, of which there are 2 on either side. Finally, your teammates will also need the buff in order to kill some of the adds. Some of the adds on the left side will have an orange mist, and some of the adds on the right side will have a white mist. In order to kill the adds, you will need to match their color based on the buff, so darkness kills orange and light kills white. Now the strategy for this is you will have 2 runners, 1 on either side. Again, 2 people per side on ad clear. Pick up your buffs, and once you do, you will get the white mechanic timer again. It will last for 2 minutes, and this time there are no tormentors to extend the time. What some people like to do is they will have the individual runner running for their specific buff. So the runner on the right side only runs for light and vice versa. This takes too long, because you can only pick up light on the right side, which means you need to consistently jump back to get it. Instead, you can have both runners picking up both of the buffs. So as an example, let's have the runner on the right be called 1 and the left side runner be called 2. Runner 1 picks up the light buff and jumps to the left to bank it. Meanwhile, number 2 picks up darkness buff on the left, jumps to the right and banks it. Now at this point the runners would go back to the sides that they started on. Instead, runner 2 goes to pick up the light whilst number 1 picks up the darkness. This way it is quicker than having to jump across. But before you pick them up, make sure that the runner opposite you has banked their buff before you collect a new one, otherwise it will despawn the nodes. Something as simple as white has been banked or darkness has been banked is all that needs to be said. So runner 2 takes the light and banks it on the right. Then they go to pick it up again. Once they do, they jump to the left to bank it on the side they started on. Meanwhile, runner 1 does the same. They pick up darkness, bank it on the left, pick it up again, jump to the right side and bank it over there. At this point, runner 1 and 2 are back where they started. Runner 1 picks up light and banks it on the right, then picks it up again and jumps to the left to bank it on the last one. Meanwhile, runner 2 takes darkness, banks on the left, takes darkness again, and jumps to the right to bank it over there. Remember though, you need to call out to your runner if it is safe for you to pick up a buff that is different from the one that you have banked. A general rule of thumb is this: before crossing the chasm, make sure to pick up one of the buffs. Now, what about the people on ad clear? Well, one person from each side of a room who is on ad clear will be tasked with keeping an eye on the runner. Their job will be to collect the buff with the runner. So each time a runner goes to pick up the buff, make sure that there is at least one person from the ad team that gets the buff with you. All they need to do is stand in the dome when you shoot the node. This way there is always at least one person capable of killing any ads that are shielded by the buffs. Once all the nodes are done, the timer will disappear. You will need to kill all the ads that are left, and they will all be shielded. So bank the final nodes, and then all of you, 3 people on each side, stand in the domes and collect the buff together, so that everyone can kill the ads. Once they are dead, a third jump pad, 1 on each side, will appear. Use them to jump to the second floor. There are 3 floors in total, and you do the same thing for each of them. Pick up the buff, jump to the opposite side, bank it, and call out if your partner has banked theirs. If they have, pick up the next buff, bank it on the side that you are on, then pick it up again and jump back across to the side you started on. Bank it, call out if your partner is done. If so, collect the next buff, bank it again on the same side that you are on, then pick it up again and jump back to the opposite side to bank it for the final time. Collect the buff of everyone on our team, clear the ads, onto the 3rd floor, rinse and repeat. Remember that for every couple of nodes that you complete, the buff will move itself upwards to the middle of the room. And finally to the end. Like I said, there are 3 strategies. One of them is you can just have one person running for the individual buff and either using the jump pads or sword skating to complete the sequence. If anything goes wrong though, it is difficult to salvage, especially since you are relying on the runner being proficient in sword skating. The second strategy is to have 4 runners and 2 ad clearers. This makes the communication even more confusing because at this point you will have 4 voices overlapping asking if the other runners are ready. Choose whichever one works best for you. Before moving on to the 3rd encounter, you will need to complete a jumping puzzle. To open it up, you will need to use this light and darkness buffs to activate nodes. This sequence never changes. Pick up light on the right, bank it twice on the left, and then once in the middle. Same with darkness. Pick it up on the left, bank twice on the right, and once in the middle. This will open the door that leads to this open area. To complete this jumping puzzle, you will need to be using jumping pads, sword skating, or grapple to make your way through whilst avoiding the wipe mechanic. The only way to avoid it is to pick up the field of light buff and then bank it onto a darkness plate to receive a buff called Darkness Refuge. It will last for 14 seconds, and if you stand underneath the darkness node, the timer will be paused. Just before the wipe begins, you will hear a heartbeat sound, and at the same time your screen will pulse once. You have 10 seconds to grab the refuge buff once this happens. The wipe is a pulse, so based on your location, you can have a minus or plus 2 seconds to a 10-second timer based on how close you are to the pulse. Once you get to this middle area, the second part of the Deepsight puzzle will be to the left in these doorways. In this scenario, our sequence was darkness and double light. This is the second room, so we need to do the light side node. Then simply exit and head to the opposite area to make your way further through the jumping puzzle. Once you get to this open area with the stairs, behind you and above you will be the second hidden chest. If you face the temple, the wipe mechanic will be to your left. Run towards it, and on the side there will be a switch. Shooting it will open the door to the hidden chest. Once you have completed the jumping puzzle, you will be here in the 3rd encounter room. For this there are 2 buffs that you need to know: Planetary Insight and Planetary Shift. The objective here is rotate the planets into the correct positions and then activate the 3 plates in the middle to be able to do damage to the boss. For this there will be 4 runners and 2 people on ad clear. First we will label the planets. There are 6 on either side. For left side, label them L1 to L6 based on their distance from the start of a room. Do the same for the right side. 1 is closest to you and 6 is furthest from you. The left side planets are the light side, whilst the right side planets are darkness. However, there are 2 planets on both sides that are incorrect. There will be 2 light planets on the right and 2 darkness planets on the left that need to be swapped to the correct side. To do so, start the encounter, and for the time being, everyone is killing all the ads. You are aiming to kill the phalanx shields and the centurions as quickly as possible. The people on ad clear, 1 per side, stay on the platforms on the far side of the room and focus on the ads. Meanwhile, the runners, 2 per side, stay on the platforms as well and need to kill 1 Colossus each in order to receive a Planetary Insight buff. Now, the Colossus are tied to whichever side you kill them on, so for example, if you are on the left side and you kill the left side Colossus, you will only see the light side planets. Whoever kills the Colossus first on both sides will read the planets that are the odd ones out. In this case, for left side it is L1 and L5 because they are dark, whilst the right side it is R3 and R4 because they are light. Although we cannot see it, our teammates on the opposite side called it out for us. So once you have the insight buff, you then approach your planet and underneath it is a white orb that you can interact with to pick up. Once you pick it up, you then bank on the planet that was called out on the opposite side. So in this case, I picked up L1 because it was the odd one out, and R3 was the odd one out on the right side, so that is where I need to bank it, whilst the runner for right side picked up R3 and banked it at L1. Now, instead of 4 people talking over one another as to who is getting which planet, establish at the very start who is getting which numbers. So one runner on both sides will always get the lowest number, whilst the other 2 will always get the highest. In this case, for our team, I was always getting the lowest number, whilst my teammate Garden was always getting the highest number. So I got L1 and he got L5. In a different scenario, the numbers can be L1 and L2. In that case, I would get L1 and he would get L2. Or if a callout is L4 and L6, then I would get L4 and Garden would get L6. This makes the communication clearer because you only need to know your own planet and the one location where you are banking on the opposite side without even having to ask. Once all 4 planets have been banked in the correct order, you then need to kill more adds, especially the Phalanxes and Centaurians. This will yet again spawn another 4 Colossus. The runners kill them again, and this time you need to look to the 3 planets in the middle of a room. 2 of them will be the same color, and the other one will be the opposite. Each of those planets are above a plate, which is left, middle, and right. In this case, left and right is darkness, whilst middle is left. That means one runner from the left side needs to collect any white planet, whilst the other 2 runners on the opposite side need to collect 2 of any darkness planets. You then take that planet to the middle of the room and bank it on the plate by interacting with it. After doing this, everyone needs to converge to the middle, but do not step on the plates yet. For the time being, clear the room of all the adds, and once you are ready, either wait for damage to start, or you can shoot a crystal in the middle of a room that is up in the sky to make it go faster. At this point, the boss will glow a color, either darkness or light. Whichever color it is the plate you need to do damage on. Rockets, linears, fusionates are the way to go with the boss. You don't need Divinity because you don't have that much time to do damage, and you are aiming to deplete all of the white part of his health bar each time. As you can see, we couldn't use the last plate because someone accidentally stepped on it before damage, so make sure to avoid them unless you are banking a planet at that location. Then it's rinse and repeat until you reach the final stand, at which point it doesn't matter which plate you use. Just stand on one and kill him as quickly as possible. Up next, you will have another jumping puzzle which needs to be unlocked using the light and darkness nodes. The sequence is exactly the same yet again, with light being picked up on the right, bank it twice on the left, and then in the middle. Same with darkness on the left, bank twice on the right, and finally in the middle. This next jumping puzzle might throw a few of you off if you have vertigo. The ways are twisted with steep hills and sharp descents. Follow the enemies until you reach these doorways. The third one from the left to the right is the one you go through. Once inside, make your way to the top right of the room and go through the doorway. Follow the white bridges until you get to this area which holds the last room for the Deepsight chest puzzle. Facing it, it is down to the right side. Jump down and go to this island. If you look up, you'll see a gap in the ceiling. Collect the buff that you need and bank it on the floor above you. If you did it correctly, the message "A Great Harvest Awaits" will appear. You are now at the boss room. Everything you have learned throughout the raid will be used here. The objective is to complete the light and darkness nodes on either side of the room, which will bring Nezarec into damage mode. In the meantime, you will also need to avoid the boss swipe mechanic along with keeping him distracted. There are multiple strategies to this that you can use. For this, we will have 1 decoy in the middle, 2 runners, 1 on the left and right, 3 defenders, 1 for each side of the room. Now the runner's job will be the same as always. Complete the nodes as fast as possible with the runners running for their own colored node. So light for light and vice versa. The boss has a wipe mechanic which you can either avoid or survive using either the go fast or refuge strategy. Here's the difference. If you complete the nodes on both sides quickly before the boss does a wipe mechanic, then you can avoid it altogether. But you need to be really quick. Burst jump, Icarus dash, any of the Titan charging melees, sword skating and grappling are all the ones you want to be using in order to quickly complete it. This makes it inconsistent for multiple reasons. For starters, both runners need to be in sync because if one side is quicker than the other, the location of the domes that give you the buff that you need will be in different places on both sides. If one person dies or is blocked by adds or fails a few jumps, then you lose time and the boss will kill you. As you can see, we were able to successfully do it, which will block its wipe mechanic. However, it is better to survive it using the refuge strategy. In this case, to survive it, the decoy will call out a color that they will see on the boss, which I will explain in just a moment. That color, for example, if it was light, it would mean that the runner on dark side would need to finish the node they are doing, recollect the buff, and then run to the light side to shoot a finished white node to create the buff refuge, just like in the jumping puzzle. If the color is darkness, then the light side runner creates a refuge on the right side. Everyone then gathers around the node and collects the buff. As soon as you can see the back of the boss begin to glow, you can leave the plate and go about finishing off the nodes that you left off at. The decoy's job is to distract the boss, who has crit spots like a Tormentor but the abilities of a Scion. In other words, he will throw you repeatedly into the sky over and over again unless he is stunned. At the same time, he will literally chase after you, including the runners, hence why it is called the decoy. To stun him, shoot him in the right shoulder with either an Obelisk, Linear or Sniper, which will give you a buff called Nezarec's Hatred, making the boss focus on you. Whichever shoulder you shoot first, this will cause the middle of his chest to open up. You need to shoot that as quickly as possible, because if you don't, the boss will begin throwing people around using its Scion abilities. At this point, you need to shoot the left shoulder. The easiest time to do so is when the boss is jumping down. This will cause a pulse to burst from his body either in the color of darkness or light. In this case, it is light. That is the color you are calling out for your runners if your team is doing refuge. Now, whilst that is happening, the decoy's job isn't over yet. The boss is now in the arena and can chase people. The decoy now needs to distract the boss by simply shooting and punching him. If you shoot him in the chest with a primary or any weapon, even a glaive, you will continuously get Nezarec's Hatred. He will repeatedly try to slap you off the map, so simply punch him to stay in the same position. If your team is doing refuge, then you need to wait for a little bit until they are all there. If you go too soon to get your own refuge, the boss will follow you and he can slam the entire team off a plate and even off the map. The third strategy is to have 4 runners, but that complicates the comms and at the same time it lets the adds roam free, so it's better to have 3 people doing adds so that the other 3 can focus on doing their jobs. For damage, you can either use swords and put wells around them whilst you stab him to death. Otherwise, if you go to the middle right plate, that is the best location to do damage from if you are using rockets, linears, machine guns or grenades. Finally, a bit of advice. If you are doing refuge, then you need to wait for the boss to drop off his podium again before finishing off the nodes, otherwise it will be difficult to damage him whilst he is at the top of the map during damage phase. After each damage phase, make sure to hide for a brief moment whilst you wait for the nodes to reappear. The boss will begin throwing out purple attacks that can one-shot you if your resilience is low. Once you hit final stand, throw everything you have at the boss before he wipes you. And there you have it, that is how you complete the Root of Nightmares raid. If you have found the video to be helpful, then please like, share and post a comment. Don't forget to subscribe for more Destiny 2 guides. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.